I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. Vespertine joins us. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, appreciate you coming on. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Tis me, tis I, your resident, perpetually tired vampire, Vespertine Valentine, coming at you with my second ever interview, in fact.
Second ever. Somebody beat me to it?
Mhm. Yes, unfortunately.
Oh, well, that happened with, I'm my wife's second husband, too, so it happens all the time.
I mean, at the end of the day, she still picked you. So.
Yes, that's her fault. She's got no one to blame but herself at this point. For how long have you been VTubing?
It will, in fact, be a year in 2 days.
Really? So we're catching you at an awfully good time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a interesting experience over the course of the year.
Well, yeah.
But I'm glad that I made it through.
Well, why did you do it in the first place?
Well, if we're gonna get introspective right off the bat, I'll say that I, as many people nowadays might, lack a clear direction in life. And instead of wasting away and not really doing anything, aside from, the usual of grinding out living, I decided, you know what? Let's give it a try. I like entertaining people. I like yapping about nothing, and I like making friends. So, one day, I sat down with Viroid Studio, made a model in about 40 minutes, thought, you know what? Good enough. And then I proceeded not to use it for a year. And then another day, I decided, you know what? Why not? And I decided I'm gonna make a channel and just start streaming. No, fanfare or anything. Just click live and see where things lead me.
So were you a fan of VTubers before this?
Oh, yeah, I guess. I guess by VTubing standards, I might be one of the older fans because I don't know if you're familiar with Hololive.
Oh yeah.
But I was a fan of them before their English branch even came out. So
yeah, yeah, you're practically ancient.
by VTuber standards, I'm practically ancient in terms of being a fan.
Yeah.
I was there for Calliope Mori's debut.
Yeah, so that was a while ago.
4 years ago is insane to think about.
Yeah, well, that certainly has changed a lot over there. And
no, it hasn't.
You don't think so?
No, in ways it has, in the sense that they've gotten bigger. But I feel like they've still all maintained who they were from the start.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of the business for them has changed a little bit with.
The business blew up, especially during the bad pandemic times, because everyone was at home and everyone was like, you know what, I'm already crazy enough. Let's get even more crazy watching the funny little virtual people.
That is one of the best ways to describe it I've ever heard. We're already crazy. Let's get a little more crazy. So was it an easy transition for you to do this?
I'd say so. The biggest aspect to it that I think took me a while to come to terms with was what growth actually meant. I am also a moderator for EN VTubers. We're the largest English-speaking VTuber server in the world.
Yeah.
And one thing that I find myself repeating a lot to especially newer VTubers is that you need to temper your expectations and understand what growth really means, because that's something I struggled with learning. My quote-unquote gen mates, the people who started at the same time as me, the people that I consider my friends, a lot of them reached affiliate within a week. A lot of them reached 100 followers within a week, and so on and so forth. And I had a skewed perception of what it meant.
Right.
Because I felt like I was lagging behind because I wasn't like them, when in reality, doing more research, I found out that I'm growing just fine. And the more shocking thing I realized was having like an average of 3 to 4 viewers puts you at like the top 10% of Twitch streamers in the world.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I don't think people who look at the industry right away realize that yeah, it's the first yeah, the first few times you're going to be on, you probably, if you haven't done a big splashy opening, you're probably not going to get too many people because there's just so many choices.
And not just that, it's like I think it's good to just go in it without expecting the grandeur that you see from actual corporations putting on big displays. Like there's such a skewed idea of what we may or may not have that I, it's good to come into this with some research in mind because another thing I always have to tell people is that please, for the love of God, don't spend too much money before you actually see if you like the act of streaming.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I had difficulty adjusting with was, oh my God, just sitting there talking to yourself for 3 hours is so exhausting.
It is. It really is.
Like
Uh, yeah, I don't.
you see other people doing it, and you're like, oh, I could do that, and then you do it, and you're like, wow, I didn't expect myself to be so sleepy, like an hour in.
Yeah, we used to call that in radio talking in circles. Um, if and we did things like that if we had to time things out and we had to fill in between programs or whatever, or if there's like a emergency going on, and we were just there by ourselves, no script, talk, and it was like, okay, let's tell us who we are again and where we're at and why we're here, and we start all over again. Uh, but to keep people getting started is one thing, and even getting a group of people to come watch you is one thing. Keeping them there is another thing.
Oh yeah, and all right, I'm sorry if I'm just making this like the Vespertine advice hour,
No, no, no. Go ahead.
but another thing that I try to tell people, and another thing that I've learned across this entire journey was so there's this weird idea that you need to be flashy, you need to have all these things to be successful.
Hmm.
And one thing I've learned was it helps to have that pomp and circumstance, but that's not going to keep people around.
Right.
You got to learn what makes people attracted to you, and you got to dial that up to 11 if you want to keep people around.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm assuming you're referring to as well, where
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
learning that aspect
Yeah.
is key and it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's if the games or whatever you're doing, special
Hmm.
events or whatever, might bring people in to start with, but for them to come back, they've got to enjoy the host personality, how they do things. Um, there are a lot of people who play Genshin Impact, a lot of people who play Genshin
Hmm.
Impact, so they can make a lot of choices. I mean, if they like the game, they can watch any of those folks. If they like the way you play it and the way that you bring the experience across and how you interact with them, they'll come back when you're playing some other game.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Mm.
like you got to sell yourself
Mm.
first and foremost.
Yep, marketing. I say that a lot and drive people crazy, but it is a little bit of marketing too. You have to get in there and and sometimes you chase your audience a little bit and just try to get them to chase you back. Um, but in the meantime, you still have to enjoy what you're doing while you're doing this. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Are you
Oh yeah,
enjoying yourself so far?
ups and downs, I'd say,
Uh-huh.
in the sense of, naturally in life, there's other complications that get in the way of what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to balance that, and so far I went into hiatus to balance all that, and I came out of it, and I'm doing better now.
Mm.
I had some initial anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
but all that subsided because you tend to realize that wait a minute, I'm doing just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like for where I am and like what I'm doing, it's all right. It's a steady process, and I cannot rush that.
Yeah. Yeah. And not everybody's going to be a windfall person right away when they're doing this. And Slow and steady sometimes does win the race, but that means you got to be willing to put in the time and the work and the grind and the schedule that you have to keep up. You have to do your part too.
Yeah,
You can't just
it's
wait for them to show up.
mhm.
Well,
it's uh, it's always a matter of opportunity, waiting at how do I say this? Consistency and luck will more or less win you your audience if
mm,
you put in the effort.
yeah, yeah, and it and the personality for me anyway when I watch VTubers I should say, yeah, the personality wins out in the long run, and there are going to be folks who would just have you in the background just to hear you talk. Uh,
Yeah.
that's should be perfectly fine for you guys.
hmm
So
I'm gl yeah, I'm always grateful for anyone who just tunes in. Doesn't even need to talk to
yeah,
me on chat. Just glad that I can add to their day.
yeah. So did you say you always wanted to kind of be an entertainer?
In a sense, I
Mm,
suppose, because I guess my biggest hobby that I spend time with uh is Dungeons and Dragons, and
mm,
naturally that leads you to a bit of theatrics,
mm-hmm.
um, with storytelling, with trying to entertain the people in your quote unquote table.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Are you a DM
uh,
or do you are you a player?
bit of both.
Mm,
Uh, and usually for people who might be new, I'm the that helps coax them in.
yeah.
But I do enjoy being a player more,
Well,
which I assume most DMs enjoy being a player more.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Uh,
some enjoy trying to control the game, but then the players enjoy trying to control the DM.
yeah, and that's where you bribe them with stacks. Don't tell your DMs I said that. Uh,
Start rolling dice randomly. Yeah,
mhm,
just to keep them on
mhm.
their toes. Yeah,
But yeah,
when I played, it was old school. I mean, it was like one book D&D.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm relatively new. I got into it with fifth edition,
Mm,
which I guess is 10 years old now, but
well,
you
yeah,
know,
still jam
back in
packed.
my day, it was still young.
Yeah, still jam packed. I even played the old D&D video games on the Commodore 64.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess my earliest experience with it was like Baldur's Gate 2,
Mm, yeah,
granted.
yeah.
Granted, I'm not as old as my taste in video games would suggest it to be. I just didn't have a machine that could run anything modern.
Mm, yeah. I am unfortunately as old as that and a lot more. When you
That's okay.
when you can remember when Pong came out, you're probably a little older than most people on the net at this point. Um, the what are you streaming right now? What games are you have you been featuring?
Oh, right now, like every other person on this planet, I've been playing Elden Ring,
Mm,
the DLC.
yeah.
Uh, and it's been fun. I've made it a challenge to myself where every 10 deaths I do 5 squats. So far, it hasn't killed my legs because I haven't been dying that much.
Mm,
Um, but it's been an interesting experience, especially because I don't know if you know this, but a lot, and I do mean a lot of people have been kind of bashing on the DLC for being too hard,
right.
which is a wild experience to say that about a From Software game, because, people go into it because it's hard.
Right.
And so far, I haven't had that wall yet, but, never say never.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you I hear that about people going into games and finding it too hard. Well, you just have to keep grinding. I mean, that's there are other people who are able to do it. And if you're playing a game and you don't enjoy it anymore, then don't play it anymore for a while.
Yeah, just
Anyway,
put it down.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
and some folks do this online too. They get into a game and they think that the audience is going to watch because of the game, and they don't like the game. Well, the audience isn't going to like it either.
yeah, there's also an argument to be made that if your audience does like watching you just suffer, then maybe you don't want that audience. Like
Yeah, that's
because there's definitely a subsection of people who like enjoy the Schadenfreude.
yeah, yes,
But
that's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless you're willing to be the punching bag 24/7, like maybe Play something that soothes your soul.
And it is all a part of still you're expressing yourself and
Hmm.
do you find that easier with an avatar to do that than you would say if you tried a live cam?
Without a doubt, because the avatar can always be prettier than I am, and I don't need to worry about like making myself through my streaming setup all presentable,
Mm-hmm.
which, well, I also have the benefit of, being like a man, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to deal with a bunch of people on the internet being like, ugly woman on my screen.
Well, I had a face for radio and still do, so I know I wouldn't be doing anything. I mean, you could find it out there if you really want to, but I'm not gonna be showing it anytime soon. But the were you able to get up on stage when you were younger in front of people?
Oh yeah, no, I have no problems performing, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
because, well, back when I was in high school, I was kind of forced to be the like person in charge of everything. Like my
Mm-hmm.
teachers would always be like, "Oh, Vesper's gonna be in charge of this project for the entire school," and I was like, "Okay, cool. I guess this is happening." So you get used to it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I guess I took it after a while. I took it as a sign of people have faith in me
Mm.
to step up and perform.
That's good.
So,
You don't put
mhm.
any extra pressure on yourself when you do this, do you?
Mm, not necessarily,
No.
but sometimes my brain does wander over to, am I doing enough for the people who have so much faith in me?
Mm,
And, you know, anxieties always come, doubts always come, but they subside as well.
yeah. Yeah. You always have to remember that um, you're doing the best you can, and you don't
Yeah,
want to you don't want to sap yourself to the point where you're not enjoying what you're doing.
yeah, exactly. And another thing that you gotta remember is that if people have a problem with you, they'll say it.
Mm.
Like you don't need to make up demons for you to fight.
No, no, no. It comes with its own built-in set
Mm-hmm.
when you come in, and there are just some people who are just going to be contrary, and for some reason they get their kicks out of it, and uh, they'll just focus on somebody for no reason. But if you have a good support group, and if you're in a good situation yourself as far as mentally, you should be able to get through those folks no problem.
Of course, and you've actually met some of the people in my support group
Yeah.
where, yeah, you've interviewed like Brawl Bunny
Hmm.
or Persica, like people that I know, people that have been,
Yeah. They're all
they're
great
they're
folks.
all wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a lot of fun to talk to, as you are you. Um,
Oh, thank you. As
the
are you.
well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's great to hear that people are able to get a kind of a support group, um, and maybe never meet them in person. Um,
Yeah, that's been the case for me since I was young, because
yeah,
I was always indoors.
yeah.
Most of my friends were continents away,
Mm,
so
that's
I guess I'm used to that.
yeah, yeah. Well, you being a younger person than I am, you're a lot more
Hmm.
used to it than I would be. I mean, for me growing up, it would be like pen pals. That would be how far away. Talking to anybody for any period of time, for any distance, cost a lot of money back then.
Oh,
And
I get it,
yeah,
because back
mo-
where I'm from, we were a little technologically behind, so if I wanted to talk to like away for too long, that would also.
oh yeah. I mean,
So,
folks need to remember back then. Sometimes a 20-mile away phone call was long distance, and
uh, and honestly, it is when you have the perspective of what 20 miles
yeah,
might actually be.
yeah. But people now can whip out their phones and call Mexico and have no problem with it. They're,
Hmm.
back then it was Ma Bell controlling everything, and the quality wasn't always good. And oh my gosh, your boss got mad at you when you called and stayed on too long to the phone calls. Um, so you got your 1 year coming up. Have you got any big things planned for it?
I do, in fact, not exactly on the day of
Mm-hmm.
because scheduling, but I
Uh-huh.
do plan on doing a charity stream, uh, and another charity stream of mine, and I do also want to start up a maybe monthly segment where I take uh I take new albums from people in the community. I listen to a few of the songs and I recommend them other music because well, I'm not a musician myself. That
Mm-hmm.
talent goes to other people's family.
Yeah.
I do love sharing music with people, and
Wow.
hopefully I can expand their horizons like that.
Yeah, that's it. That is fun to tune people into some stuff they haven't heard before. Um, actually, as a matter of fact, show 200 is coming up soon, and that's going to be a musical show for
Oh,
us. We're going to be playing some of the songs by some of the people that we've interviewed over the first
oh yeah, I
200.
remember.
Yeah,
Like you were asking for covers.
yeah, this is going to be fun. There's a lot of really talented people um,
Oh,
out
for
there,
sure.
and it's
This community is so like vibrantly talented.
yeah,
Uh,
it's scary sometimes. How
Yeah,
talented.
that's why I always am like I will violently shake you if you ever tell me that you don't have any talents in anything.
Yeah, I mean it's to hear some of these folks sing or watch them create art or see how they interact with people and realize that 10, 20 years ago they wouldn't have had that opportunity is
Yeah, it's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, amazing is exactly right. Jinx. The But really, it is because here we've got a lot of people who may have been homebodies, who may have not gone out, or maybe they were uh, destined to be in some type of situation where they couldn't be very social and wanted to be, and or they were had something else going on, and now we get a chance to share their talent, and they get to share it with us.
And yeah, that's the beauty of the internet in a way where we're, for better or worse, we really are connected
Hmm.
much more than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you found that interacting with chat's been very easy for you?
Usually because I've had, I guess, the pleasure of like either directly talking to or being with the majority of my follower base.
Hmm.
Like I know them almost
Hmm.
on a personal level. So I guess it's awkward for me whenever somebody completely new is around. I'm like, holy hell, how did you find me? Who are you? But uh usually I slip back into the whole I guess I wouldn't call it a persona, but
Hmm.
I guess for ease of use I'll say a persona of like, friendly streamer person who's here to make you all comfortable and probably be bad at video games.
But you bring everybody with you while you're doing it, and
Hmm.
that's a big difference. And you find that VTubing kind of energizes you a little bit.
It does because it lets me just focus on creating something and things that I probably would have never thought of in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It connects me with people who are so talented, so inspiring
Mm-hmm.
that without a doubt that I wouldn't be still doing this if it wasn't for me looking at the other people who came up with me thinking, damn,
Yeah.
they're doing so great. There's no way that I can like not catch up to that. I need to stand right there side by side with them.
Yeah.
But sounds cheesy, but
Oh no,
sometimes the truth's cheesy.
yeah. Well, that's fine. I like cheese. But
Exactly.
but here you got a situation where you mentioned it yourself earlier that you didn't necessarily have a particular direction at the time to go. And
Hmm.
this gives you a place where you can kind of focus a little bit on
Yeah.
on yourself and enjoying other people. So it obviously it's become a large part of your life.
Hmm.
Mm. And
And
having done that, if something were to happen and you weren't able to stream, how would that affect you?
well, I guess I've already been through that, so
Yeah.
I guess I can say that it was. not as bad as I thought, while also being worse in some ways.
Hmm.
I didn't have the guilt of, oh, I'm not streaming anymore, but I did have the fall off of I'm not keeping up with the people that helped me so much over the course of an entire year.
Hmm.
I'm losing those connections almost.
Mm.
And to me, if I never get to stream again, that's fine by me. I'll live. But if just lose all the people that I've found along the way, now that would actually like be devastating.
Well,
And
I'm really glad that you're able to keep things going and keep yourself uh, not just uh, not just up as far as continuing to stream, but continuing to enjoy yourself and wanting to uh, keep moving forward at a steady pace. That tells me you've got a good head on your shoulders as far as looking out for the realistic growth of your channel.
yeah, I I think that's my biggest strength as a person that I I let my emotions be emotions for a couple hours. I dust myself off, and I'm like, well, life goes on.
So, what do you have any big goals? I mean, long term goals for what you want to do on VTubing?
Well, I would like to go to the YouTubing side of things
Mm.
more, but that requires me to learn how to edit better. That's been a process that I've been dreading. I'm not gonna lie, based off the little I've done, I don't really particularly enjoy editing.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely a different thing. Maybe I should do one, just do an interview and talk about editing. Uh,
oh,
and
that would be wonderful.
yeah, because people don't understand it isn't just like, oh, okay, I'll press this button and take it out. There's all sorts of ways to do it. Um, back in the ancient times, um, we actually had videotape we had to edit, and that was no fun.
Yeah, you have to splice up tape, and
Oh, yeah,
that was a
that was
that's always an interesting process to see.
yeah, especially if you miss and
Oh God.
you turn a tape into ribbons of nothing, audio and video wise, and then you're really up the creek. But digital editing does make it a lot better, uh, but it doesn't mean it makes it easier. You still have to
Definitely not.
you still have to
Uh,
learn and have the right programs and such. So it really the only thing really keeping you back from doing YouTube stuff is the editing part.
More or less where I look at my, I guess, quote unquote, inspirations, and I'm like, oh, I want to do stuff like this, but this is way too complicated. So I've decided, let me just step back a little and just talk about something. Like, just have some music in the background and like talk about a thing that I really care about and like post that on YouTube. And that's that was one of my that was one of my like New Year resolutions, which I never got to until last month. Uh but hopefully I'll be doing at least one a month so I can get back to the groove of things and maybe end up doing it weekly because I like yapping about things, as you might have seen, and I think it's fun to just foster a community that you can discuss things with, to share your love of XYZ, to just put some positivity out in the world. Because one thing I told myself uh, when I started streaming, well, even before I started streaming, is that I would never, like, ever be negative just for the sake of being negative,
Hmm.
because there's just so much of that
Oh yeah,
online.
absolutely.
And I always tell people that if you want to grow really fast, you just pick on something to hate, and you'll find an audience that'll hate watch it with you, but you're not gonna enjoy that process for very long
No, and
because it has a ceiling, and it's a miserable time just being around miserable people.
yes, that is true. And I used to do a radio talk show for a football team that was 0 and 11, and you talk about a miserable time.
Oh yeah, I'm a soccer fan, and my club that I support is Arsenal. I don't know if you know anything about it, but They always are close to winning the league until matches where they fumble everything.
Oh,
I also know a thing or two about miserable football.
yes. Oh, yes. They always get right to the edge and fall off the cliff. That's
Hmm.
it keeps you going, but also keeps you frustrated. That's sports for you,
Yeah,
and in a
yeah.
nutshell.
So you're like, this year is gonna be the year, and it definitely isn't.
Yeah, we in baseball it was the Cubs until they finally won the World Series. That's what I was following. Now I couldn't care less about baseball for the most part. They got the championship. I'm good. I'm don't need to watch anymore. Um, so you've got the big event coming up. What is your charity you're going to be streaming for here soon?
Oh, I'm gonna be streaming for the Palestinian Children's Relief
Mm,
because uh, I don't know if a lot of people keep up with, but a lot of bad things are happening
a
part of
lot.
the world.
Yes, there are. And anytime we can help the kids,
Mhm.
the better.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
and
we don't have anybody to replace us.
I guess I have somewhat of a personal connection in the sense that both of my parents are survivors of genocide.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I I feel almost obligated that whenever I see something like that, I need to do something to help if I'm in the position.
yeah. Well, the YouTubing community, or VTubing community, I should say, I keep switching that for some reason today, is very good at raising money for charity, whether it's small local charities or large ones. Um, there's always some big hearts out here, and I'm glad to know that I've been talking with one of them. Uh,
Oh,
Vespertine, I really do appreciate you coming on. We're gonna have
all right.
the links to your channel coming up on the description for the interview here on the YouTube channel. And once you get some of those things happening down the line, let us know, and we'll get you on and do an update. Okay?
All right. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.